Babylon, and we kind of started to talk a bit about the gender roles when it comes to magic and more of the occult. So that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on this specific spaces is still talking, I think finalizing the Babylon topic, which I'm sure we could keep going for many, many spaces, but I think wrapping that up for now, and then kind of moving into the masculine and the feminine. Hello, Chief Sophia.
Good afternoon. I am so glad to be here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
likewise. I'm as always very grateful that I don't know how I got the honor to have you agree to do two spaces a week. That is
I think it's a lot of information, and I think I better do it while I have I'm kid free, because once the school year starts up, it'll be much harder to make this work. But I'm
Oh,
down.
okay,
I'm
nice.
down 2 kids for the summer, so I have plenty of time.
Awesome. Well, it's good to have a break from the kids sometimes.
Absolutely, 100%,
Absolutely.
one
I'm
hundred
uh
thousand percent.
I'm pet sitting my parents' dog for the next 2 weeks. And you gotta take the dog out in the morning, midday, afternoon. Like and she's an older dog, so she's got a whole
Oh,
a whole schedule.
yikes!
And I'm like, wow, this
Yeah.
is I used to think having a dog, I mean, and obviously I think the younger the dog is, the easier it is to take care of it, but like this is like almost like another human being. Um it's just funny how pets have become so integral in the family life.
Yeah, it's literally like having a child. I know people who, my brother has his dog is like that. It's like, okay, so just like take the dog to the vet or put him in a kennel and go on vacation. Oh no, we can't do that because dog doesn't like loud noises and he doesn't like people. And I'm like, why would you get a dog that doesn't like people? I'm confused. I'm I'm
Right?
literally confused
Yeah,
by
he
this.
he's
Like,
got anxiety, it's like these dogs
yes.
are getting everything that like humans are getting now, and it's like, what's
It,
going on? What's like, is it the
it,
diet? Like bad
No, they're getting
parents?
what the owners have. The owners are not diagnosing themselves properly, and therefore the dogs have what the owners have.
Hmm,
That's what's that. At least that's what I usually see. If it's an older couple, then their dog has all this stuff because they have all this stuff.
right.
In the case of my brother, his anxiety is off the charts, so the dog's anxiety is off the charts. They see stuff in these animals that they don't seem to see in themselves, or can't equate that one and one is two. I've seen that over and over again. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Um, I don't know if you saw the thread that I did on the men are headed towards the dragon's tail and women are headed towards the dragon's head.
No, I did not.
Um,
I'm just looking at it
oh
now.
shoot. Okay. Um, because I just feel like if I go back into Babylon, I will not stop. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
put an X on that unless someone has a specific uh thing that they like to talk about, because it all boils down to that, and I think we got a good baseline in of how those people work. But I will say you can see this example of their magic on full display with the situation that's happening in Texas. I've been monitoring it obviously and seeing what's going on, and I had a few questions that I still don't seem to have good answers to. So one thing I notice is when they're doing their rituals, and it does tie into the masculine and feminine because of the ones who pass. But when they're doing their rituals, you end up having questions like something doesn't make sense. So, for example, the whole concept that they were at this place called Camp Mystic, which Mystic is an initiated one. And Okay, not right now. All right, give me a little bit. Give me some time. Green. Oh, okay, it's green. Oh, but I'm okay. So can you? I'm sorry. The 4-year old
No,
doesn't
no, take your
listen.
time.
Um, the camp is called Camp Mystic, and it's on the Guadalupe River, the South Fork of the river, technically. And the question, it was a lot of questions. I was like, well, I wonder how much this camp is and how long it lasts. And so, doing some research, kind of looking at it, this camp is a $5,000 per week camp that has a 4-week session. $20,000 per session for this camp. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I can't imagine going to a camp that costs $20,000. Then I also saw, like, when, obviously the tragedy is occurring, I saw one of the parents of the campers. He was like, well, I'm in the south of France and I'm just going to put this out here on Twitter just in case I can catch a ride. And I'm like, why is he in the south of France for 4th of July? That was another thing. Why is the camp in session for the 4th of July? That's really unusual. I mean, it's a Friday. Why not just start the camp on Monday? Like, that would make more sense and you avoid the whole holiday thing. That was weird. And then all of these people are in the south of France. You know who else was in the south of France? Ted Cruz. A lot of people was in France, specifically the south of France. Then you see today, oh, well, there's a fire in Marseille. That's the south of France. And so now the airport is closed. That's really weird. One other weird thing that came up was somebody received a ransom call. A ransom call? How are you getting a ransom call for some children who were flooded out? So then a very clear picture starts to come together. Looks to me like a sacrifice. Like, they know their power is diminishing, and so they're willing to do whatever it takes to hold on to that power for a little while longer. That's what it looks like to me. And that's awful to say because I made a video and I told people there's no celebrating over loss of life. It's a horrible, tragic thing to happen. But you got to remember there's people out here who look at children as assets, not as humans. And so, would you give up an asset to get an insurance payout or some other weird, financial commercial transaction? Perhaps if you're losing everything, it's just all very, very weird. And so I'm not sure if that's something that's going to come all the way out that this is what happened, but these are the kind of things you have to look for when you're looking at these events that don't seem to be anything, but 4th of July is a huge um, Masonic ritual date because of the fact that it's when you begin to see um, Sirius, the star Sirius on the horizon. So there's 2 points where the star Sirius is like, with the last day you can see it on the horizon. That's New Year's Day or New Year's Eve midnight, and then the first day you see it on the horizon again when it rises is 4th of July. And so this is why they picked this date. I mean, more than anything else, because that's the first day you can see the star on the horizon, and then they do the fireworks to sort of seal it up. But the fact that everybody was in the south of France, that is probably has a lot to do with the Haitian Empire and the rituals that the Melchizedek priesthood and whatnot do, related to their god Mammon, one of the gods that they work with. So we'll see if that comes out. But anyway, and it's tied in because these were girls. Now, why would you need to deal with girls? Because the female energy is in its full power when it is headed towards the north node. So on my tree, the tree of manifestation, or sometimes I used to call it the cosmic tree of life. It's the same thing. In the tree of manifestation, the very top of the tree and the very bottom of the tree are both north node energy. So ideally, what would happen is you would, or what does happen with the tree of manifestation is on the bottom half of the tree, which I call the roots of the tree. You navigate through that, cycle through that twice as a child. And then the very first experience you have with the fruits of the tree is when you turn 18 and you cycle through that twice. And then when you turn 27, you cycle through that energy. That's because when you turn 36, then you start dealing with the energies every single year, as opposed to having a whole year with one energy or one planetary energy. You are literally dealing with one planetary energy every 36 days. So when you're talking about feminine energy being the poles of the actual tree, you can literally use that to manifest things faster, because if you're in the middle realm, which I call the realm of reflection, let's say for example you need to get something that's all the way at the, let's say at the bottom, because we're talking about a sacrifice here. Let's say you need to get something that's all the way at the bottom, i.e. like Jesus. He was a willing sacrifice so that we didn't have to do these kind of blood sacrifices anymore. That's the whole point of Jesus, is not having to do these blood sacrifices. So when you travel from the middle realm, the realm of reflection, all the way down to the lowest realm, which is the North Node, and Uranus rule that realm. And there's a, I call it an easy way and a hard way. Females should not interact with that kind of route where they go from the realm of reflection, the mirror world, down into the lower realm, unless they understand that you have to put up a toll booth, like you have to charge. So if you are dealing with the negatively, the realm of destruction, that's what I call it. When you're dealing with the realm of destruction, which is the negatively polarized realm, you have to charge. Everything has to be a fee on it. There has, again, the camp was $5,000 a week, $20,000 camp. That camp had to make at least $14 million a year, because I have 3 sessions of 700 campers. 14 million. That's a toll booth. It's a very expensive toll booth, but it's a toll booth nonetheless. So you know you're dealing with a pay for play entity. And that's what, in the realm of destruction, that's what you have. You have pay for play. Now, men headed towards their south node, which is in the it's the very first point, either on the realm of creation or the realm of destruction. It's what's closest to this physical mirror world as you can get. And if men are able to stay into their south node energy, then they are able to just um interact with the entities either on the negative side or the positive side and keep moving. They don't have to internalize as much of this stuff as women do. So if I take it to my tarot spiral, the Aquarius slice of the tarot spiral has the magician with the sun and the moon. That means that a male really should be a traditional magician. He can use sun and the moon to get things done. And um, it won't affect his psyche the way that it would affect the psyche of a woman. So me, if I do magic, for example, and there's no toll booth, like I don't know what entities I'm dealing with, and I don't know how much they charge, what's the cost of interacting with them, right? And I ask for something and I don't have a toll booth set up, then basically that could end up with me being going crazy or something like that. And I think one of the reasons why I haven't completely lost my mind is because I already understood the concept of don't nobody work for free. And so when I was doing different high level magical experimentations, I always had something already set up for these entities if for whatever reason I had to interact with them. So I know they can't like actually physically interact with me. You can't possess me no matter how hard you try. So I have a pendulum. So if I had a question, did this work? Did this not work? Let me talk to this one, that one, whatever. I would use my pendulum. I would leave out water. I would leave out just different stuff. Like I knew that there's no entity coming to help me unless there's some kind of an interaction, because I'm a business person. But most people, they're not thinking like that. They're just like, well, these entities out here, they do whatever they do. for the fun of it. That's not the in the realm of creation, yes, but not in the realm of destruction. They need something. So another thing that we would always do is burn ancestor money. And I would say, look, whoever need ancestor money, I had a dream one time, which is why I knew the ancestor money worked. I was running around the spirit realm asking who needs some money. I had piles and piles of ancestor money. I was going down dark alleys. I was everywhere. It was like for like 8 hours, which in the spirit realm is like 100 years, passing out ancestor money. That's how much ancestor money I burned. Like everybody had money. They was flush with cash down there because some of the old mythology entails like if you have to cross the river, Styx or whatever, you have to have certain amount of money in order to cross. And one thing that we figured out way back in the beginning was that because a lot of our ancestors were Christian and they took away all of this knowledge, they weren't preparing themselves for when they pass away. So when they died, nobody was burning ancestor money for them or sending things to them on the other side so that they could have what they need. And so a lot of our ancestors were simply just stuck waiting for homeboy Jesus to come and take them because that's all they knew because they were these Christians that didn't that this Roman Christianity, this papal Christianity, which was completely out of alignment with how the spirit world works. It's totally it's complete insanity. And I see it now more because in the Orthodox Church, when people pass, there is first of all, you have prayers that you say for them, you have songs that you sing for them. If you're buried on the like at an Orthodox church, they do prayers for you once a year. At least somebody goes out there and prays over the graves. And there's a process for making sure that the spirits are moving the way they're supposed to move after when they cross over. In traditional Christianity and it's and not so much in the Roman Catholic Church, but the Protestant churches, they have no method for this. There's no discussion of this like at all. So when people die, they just you just assume that everything will be all right, but sometimes it doesn't work like that. If somebody in your bloodline haven't been doing this kind of spiritual work, then you just end up waiting for whoever will do whatever they will for you. So for like sometimes the people who show up that will take you to do things for you are these realm of destruction entities. And so while you think that you've been doing everything that you can on this spiritual journey, you have people who have in your bloodline that have been co-opted by these realm of destruction entities, and they're out here actively working against you because nobody paid the toll when they were alive. When they died, nobody did anything. So like for example, when I first started burning ancestor money, like I said, I burned a lot of ancestor money, and I burned it for everybody that I could think of who had passed away up to that point. And I recently had one of my younger cousins, which is really rare because people don't really die young in my family. So one of my younger cousins passed away, and I was like, I think I talked about this. I was like, well, this was not really a good person. I'm not actually I had a dream the before I found out he passed away. I had a dream where my cousins, that all the same group of people, had sold me into slavery. And so when I woke up, I looked at my phone and my mom was like, "Oh, well, your cousin passed away and it's really sad." And I was like, "Tag." And I was like, well, they sold me into slavery. But then I was like, well, if I'm the spiritual person and this the kind of stuff that I do, then I need to go ahead and burn him some ancestor money because I don't want him to be stuck, on this side, waiting for someone to come and help him because who's going to do it? Is his mom? No, they're not. None of them, they don't know nothing about ancestor money. They're not going to burn no money for him. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to burn him some ancestor money. And that's what I'll do when people in my bloodline die that I know, I'm just going to burn them some money. It's not a huge issue. And because I always have some. So I did. And I felt like that was the right thing to do. So there's always this kind of, twist and turn of which people do you want to cover with your energy, especially as a female. And then as a male, males don't have to be worried about all of this. 9 times out of 10, they just need to be ready to go and fight. And And by fight, it's like negotiate, because especially on the realm of destruction side, it's a negotiation. If you you just say women going to the shop to get their car fixed. You ask them, how they say to us, well, it costs this much to get your car fixed. And you don't see women negotiating. You just see uh okay, you just see women saying, okay, I'll just pay it, and go. Men that ask questions, well, what about this, what about that? Well, I just got this done, I just got that done. No, I don't think I need this, I don't think I need that. What about this, what about that? This is women typically just aren't in that particular energy, unless again you're already a woman who has a lot of masculine energy. But 9 times out of 10, women don't do that. This is why women, they don't be having oil in their car, all kinds of weird stuff. It's because when you're dealing in the realm of destruction where all they can do is destroy, you would just have to be built a certain way for that. So the example I use for this in my thread is the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent. So you have Adam, the reason why Adam, the serpent doesn't approach Adam is because Adam has already named everything. He is secured within the realm of creation. When you name something, so I always tell people, you got to know who your spirit team is. Don't just, it's just these people. They've no. You need to know everybody got a name. There's power, just like we know with Doge. There's power in naming something. It's really impossible to destroy something that has a name. Once you give it a name, it's created basically. And so because that's in the you know the Jewish or the Hebrew history, or the way that they do culture, they have naming parties. You don't name the baby right away. You wait a few days and you have an actual naming party. So or I used to know somebody who said that their parents would always change their name. Whatever name they got in the hospital, within a month they were changing it. They always did this. So this is a really important concept of naming things. So because Adam named everything, he had already reflected onto that thing what was in himself. So the serpent couldn't come to him. So the serpent bypassed Adam and went to Eve. Now, because Eve is in the realm of creation, she was literally created, right? So she never, if she knew what things were called, but she had never reflected the things back because she was in the realm of creation. That's just the way that it was set up. So all she had to do was continue to create. Now, she hadn't started creating babies yet, but that's all she had to do was create. It was Adam who was tasked with reflecting. And so the serpent bypassed Adam because he knew what Adam was going to say. And if the serpent had asked Adam to eat of the tree, Adam would have said no. I'm not doing that. And it would have been over. It's like, why would I do that? But the serpent bypassed Adam and goes to Eve. What does he say to Eve? All who eat of this tree shall not perish. It's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And she says, oh, like most women, I need more knowledge, like I need more shoes. I'll take some of that. And so she ate of the tree, even though she had been told not to. The mistake, or not mistake, or the situation that the creator set up, who is not necessarily the God who chastised Adam and Eve. And like I mentioned in my thread, I don't think it's the same God. I think that the creator, he set up a creation and literally gave people free will to see what would happen. And it was one of these lower guys like Zeus who actually came in and chastised Adam and Eve. And that's why Adam and Eve were not kicked out of the garden right away. Before they left the garden, they were given special clothes to wear so that they would be protected from the elements. That if the creator, quote unquote, was the one who was that angry at them, he wouldn't have made them cloaks. Like, he would have just said, get out. and you can figure it out like that. So the story, more than likely they're talking about multiple sets of gods here, but I haven't really gone into that because it's so much research to do within the Bible. So as a result of Eve deciding to partake of the tree, she does what? What do women naturally do? They share with their partner. And because Adam was in the habit of reflecting what was around him, he didn't even question it. He just took from his partner what she offered. Now, that's how the relationship is supposed to work between um, men and women. And when you look a little bit further and it talks about the curse of Adam and the curse of Eve, you will see that some of these things are they don't happen to certain people. So the curse of Adam was that he was cursed to work the ground with his hands. But that's not exactly what happened, because there's all kinds of trees where basically you never have to plant a single thing in the ground. All you have to do is grab it from the tree. Even today, I'm working on like trees of life, where if you just have like these 12 or 13 trees in your yard, you basically don't need anything else, like except you have to go get some meat. But as far as like vegetables or fruits or anything else, you probably won't need too much. And same thing with Eve. She was cursed with having a bleeding and having a troublesome childbirth. But I can tell you one thing for a fact. One thing I know for sure for myself. None of my childbirth was that hard. I mean, that was a huge scare tactic that they pushed in like the early 2000s, was making it seem like childbirth was hard and it was painful and all of that. But if you birth children early enough, it's not hard. And my sister, I was in the room when she gave birth. Now my sister has 5 children, okay? um I was in the room when she gave birth one time because her husband is an over the road truck driver. This girl was smiling the whole time. I never seen it. I was like, "You're not in pain?" She was like, "No, not at all." So they say it's a curse, but some people don't experience that curse. So then you have to wonder, was it really a curse at all? Like, the ability to procreate, was that actually a curse? The ability to cultivate food, was that actually a curse? They say it's a curse, but I'm not so sure. So this is what I mean when I say also that the Bible has multiple levels depending on you and your frequency, which level or which layer of the Bible is available to you. Um, and it's really just a personal choice.
Wow. Um, yeah, you go through a lot.
I know, I
This
just
is
like,
it's great. It's great. It's
sorry,
great.
that's
Yeah, it
just,
just makes me wonder, okay, what question do I ask first? Um, so ancestor money, what does that mean?
oh, this is a
What
great
is
question. So in the Chinese, the Asian pantheon, um, so let's go over to the Asian pantheon for a moment. They have it's literally a piece of paper that looks like money. They have some that are very, very colorful. Some that are like $100 bills, look like $100 bills. And what happens is you can burn the money. I mean, it's called Joss paper, and you can burn it, and it burns clean, and there's no smoke. It burns clean, and it literally is the process of using the fire to deliver an item to the spirit realm. So a lot of people are familiar with burning candles and that kind of stuff. This is just the next kind of step to that. And the Buddhists, I think, and some of the Taoists specifically, they do whole like they burn like phones, cell phones, they'll burn computers, whole houses. All this stuff is in paper, like it's in paper, but fancy shoes, all kinds of stuff. They'll set up like whole mock houses for their ancestors, because when they get to the other realm, they don't have any of this stuff. And so that Asian pantheon, they do a great job of making sure that their ancestors are taken care of on the other realm, because they don't see the other realm as separate from this realm as we do. So they literally, you can, but the money part, um, on ancestor money, the traditional ancestor money is a picture of the Jade Emperor, okay? And the Jade Emperor is Job, um, from the Bible, hands down. And basically, I did a video on this too on my channel. You could probably find, but the Jade Emperor is the one who is like the banker of heaven or hell. They put him because they also call them hell notes, but he's the banker. So he is the one who handles the money. And so if you remember anything about the story of Job, when he got his wealth back, it was increased so much because of how much turmoil he went through. He was increased that much. And that is literally that the part of the story that the Bible doesn't talk about is over in the Asian pantheon. And I find that with a lot of the stories, you can find one part of it in the Bible, but then you got to go to another pantheon to find the rest of the story.
Okay.
Did I answer the question? No. So you
Yes,
can order.
yes.
Okay, are you
Yeah,
sure?
yeah, I
Because
think
I can talk.
mhm. So
Can talk
so
about it a little
Job
bit more.
Job is that's the guy that like he had a lot of money and then he lost it all
Yes, he lost. Um, a little
to
bit
see
more
if he actually
specific.
was like loyal to God.
No, actually, that's it was the angel came and told Job, okay, you're going to be tested, okay? So if you hold on, you're going to be rewarded. And so the demon Beelzebub, I'm pretty sure it was pretty sure it was Beelzebub. God sent Beelzebub not to test Job, but to test the people around him. So what happened was Job was already a king. Like he already had his own castle, his own money, lots of it. And so what he started doing was systematically not giving it away, but not being as specific at how things are being done. So he would write people notes and let them borrow money. And typically, if someone writes you a note, which is like a letter of credit, if you make the money back, you're supposed to bring it back. Well, people weren't making the money, they were losing the money. He also started feeding like 150 people at his table every single day. And so he was literally like feeding people, letting people borrow money, and his status was going down and down and down. And none of his friends intervened to actually step in and help him. They just kind of let him continue to do this. And so, because remember now, he's a king. He's not like some person living out in a regular house here. He's like living in a mansion in Beverly Hills. And he's literally passing out his stuff, passing out his stuff, passing out his stuff. Now, his wife, she's, going along with this thing. She's okay with this. All the way up until they kill his children. He had 10 children. All of them died. All of them. That was a bridge too far. Like they really went too far when they took all the children. And his wife, her heart couldn't take that. If all the money was gone, she didn't care about that. But the children, it was too much for her to take. So she ends up dying too. And so Job, who was a king, is sitting in the middle of the road somewhere on a stump, covered in bugs, unable to do anything for himself. Meanwhile, while this is happening, nobody stops him. Nobody intervenes. Nobody helps him. And so finally, some of his friends, 25 years later, this goes on for 25 years. 25 years later, some of his friends find out his state, which is impossible. They didn't just find out 25 years later. Impossible. But the friends find out and they're like, hey, let's go check on Job. 25 years later, the friends come, and one of the friends is like, God didn't tell you this. You're just, doing this for no reason. You've let yourself go. You should just die, basically. And God started talking from the sky and was like, I'm about to smite all these niggas if y'all don't give him what he needs to do this sacrifice, I'm gonna smite all of y'all because all of y'all are wicked, literally. And they all gave him what he needed to do sacrifice, and Job did the sacrifice. He didn't kill everybody, and then God made all the people give him a certain amount of gold and a certain amount of animals. And so his lot in life was increased by double, but not his children. His children were increased by exactly. So the same children that died are the same children that came back. And Job's wife on the second round was Dinah, and Dinah is the 13th child of Jacob and Leah. So that's how this story all ties together, which is really important.
Okay.
If you want to know
Wow.
what the 13th child is, it's Dinah. They never talk about her. That's really how I got into this. Like, where are the women? Not just all the women. Where's Dinah? They're always talking about these 12 sons. What about the daughter? And boy, that is a whole thing by itself. She got more power than all of them, honestly. And whatever they can do, she can do way better.
And you said child from who?
Jacob. And so like the 12, like the 12 tribes, Judah, Levi, all of them, it's literally Dinah is literally their daughter. There's only one girl. There was 12, Joseph, Benjamin, Naphtali, Gad, Simeon. There's 12 sons from Jacob. For Jacob's father was, there's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So that's the whole Abrahamic religion's baseline, is in the bloodline of Jacob. The 12 tribes are the 12 sons of Jacob, and they never talk about the daughter. Like, they just kind of leave her out.
And the Hebrews don't talk about the daughter.
No, you ask them about,
Wow.
if you ask them, they'll, oh well, there's one story in the Bible that talks about Dinah, and in this story, it's she was trying to, obvious to me, clean the bloodline up of some of these uh I don't know, what should I call them, heathens. She's trying to clean up the bloodline of some of these heathens. So she decides that she's going to marry one of these heathens. Well, her brothers, Simeon and Levi, didn't like that. And so basically, I think Judah was there too, but they developed this plan, and they tell this nation of people, okay, if you all get circumcised, which is very painful, especially if you're not a little baby, then they was going to let her, Dinah, marry them. And as soon as they got circumcised, they killed everybody. That's the only story of Dinah in the Bible where they
What?
had to, yeah, they went and killed everybody. They did not want her to marry those low class people. Now, Job was also, he was from the bloodline of Cain. So he was not a quote unquote Israelite. This is why it's so weird how they talk about his story in the Bible and why they let it be in there like that, because he was not from the Israelite bloodline at all. If you didn't look at the whole thing, you would never know. But Job wasn't in that bloodline. It's only because he married Dinah that he was basically kind of like redeemed. But again, or maybe not again, at in the Bible, and especially in Old Testament times, there was no method of conversion. You could not convert. Like, if either you were a Hebrew Israelite or you weren't. There was no conversion process. And so this is another, not even by marriage, you still weren't a Hebrew. Um, you still weren't a Hebrew. Either you had two Hebrew parents or you weren't a Hebrew. That's basically how it was. So this leads into Dinah and Job have a daughter named Kasia. Her name is something else in the Hebrew, but her name is Kasia. And Casia's son was David. So what happened with David, who becomes the king of Israel, right?
Oh, wow.
Because yeah, this is important. So the reason why David is sent out of the house, now David has 10 brothers and sisters. I think he has 10 brothers and 3 sisters. The the man that Casia marries is not a Hebrew. He's not a Hebrew. And so he questions his Hebrew lineage. So after he has these other 10 kids or 13 kids, when he gets to David, he's like, you know what? I don't think I'm really a Hebrew. That means I don't think he's really a Hebrew. So we're going to treat him like a slave. That's why all the other family, the whole rest of the kids was all on the inside of the house living like kings, but he made David stay out in the fields as a shepherd because at that point he had this guy, his father had a midlife crisis and was like, "Oh my gosh, am I really a Hebrew? I don't know." And so literally now David's not a Hebrew anymore. And so what happens is, I think it was Samuel, he's like, he comes to the place like, okay, bring me all of your sons. One of them is going to be king. And Samuel looks at all of them. He's like, none of these. And all of them, they're handsome, they're tall, they're athletic, they're great. They're like, no, not none of these. Not they're not going to be king. He's like, you got any more sons? And he's like, yeah, we got one little one out there named David. They're like, yeah, go get him, bring him in here. And when David comes in, Samuel's like, he's going to be king. And all of a sudden, this guy realizes he's actually from the Hebrew bloodline. The stories in the Bible are nuts. Like, let me just, they're all nuts. Like, completely insane. Like, that is a crazy story because right after that, the guy who's king at the time, who is Saul, works with Odin. And I know that because in the book of Samuel, it talks about how Saul tried to take David out by hitting him with two swords. And that concept of carrying two swords is something that comes from the Nordic pantheon with Odin. So again, you could be the as well read as you think you are. When you start trying to figure out what they're talking about in the Bible, you realize you're not well read enough. I only knew that because I follow a guy who talks about the Nordic history, and he had said that Odin is always pictured with two swords. That's how you know if you see a thing and you don't know what it is. If it's got two swords, it's Odin, just like in the icons. You know it's Mary if she have red shoes. Like Mary always have on red shoes. So that's how you know it's the same sort of like thing. Like when you know what they always painted their icons like, then you could figure out who they're talking about. This is specifically true in the Hindu pantheon by what weapons they're carrying. But it goes for all the pantheons. Every god has a certain weapon or way that they're pictured, always, and it's that's very very consistent over time. And once you start to follow the patterns on that, you can really make some sense of the Bible because it's coded. The people who wrote or translated the Bible were heavy magicians. So they coded all this stuff so that their fellow travelers could figure it out. But the average reader would just be like, that's weird, and not ask any questions. Lots of times I've done that. Like, wait a minute, what does that mean? That sounds very unusual. And I go and look it up and I'm like, holy smokes, I can't believe this. This is in the Bible. This is a spell. This is witchcraft, straight up witchcraft, buried directly in the text.
Yeah. Wow. Um, yeah, very fascinating. Okay, so we went through ancestor money.
Yes.
The Okay, so a little bit more into the men and the women. So you said that um so women should set up a toll booth. What can you maybe give an example of like what would that look like day to day? Like what does it look like for a woman to set up a toll booth and
Okay.
how does that work?
Okay. So, talking about pendulums, I have a video. I created a whole course on pendulums, and I did a lot of research into how they're used in the Bible. The specific story that I talk about is a story of Rahab. And Rahab, they call her a harlot, but that a harlot just means a youth. But in her case, she actually she was a businesswoman. And the business that she was running was they had like apartments or housing within the walls of the city. I can't remember what city this is. Maybe it's Jericho. They had housing within the walls of the city of Jericho. She was the one who rented out the housing. So when um it wasn't Joshua. Oh, it was Joshua. When Joshua went with the other guy, they were called spies. When they went to scout out the city for, I think, Moses to see if they could go into this particular city, they ran into Rahab and they said to her, you know, because I do believe she was a non-tribal Hebrew. So like she probably wasn't in the 12 tribes, but she might have been like one of and like an Ishmaelite who is Jacob is one. Well, is Abraham had Isaac and Ishmael. Okay, so I think she was probably an Ishmaelite, which is one of Abraham's his other son, Ishmael. Okay, so when Joshua and the other guy come up, they say to her, you know, we can save you and your whole family if you you know, if you help us out. And she was like, she used her pendulum, and it literally says this. She used her pendulum to tell them when they could make this attack on the city. And before they destroyed the city, they literally took her and her whole family out. So this is what I mean. This is how it would look practically. If somebody wants you to do something, you charge a fee. It's not, this is why you have prostitution as the oldest game in the book. Like when I do spiritual work for people, um, especially if I'm not sure who the what entities are attached to this particular person, I have to charge a fee because otherwise what will happen is those spirits will think that I worship their God. And then they'll try to either jump on me or attack me or take me over, whatever, because they'll think that we're kin. And no, we're not kin. I don't know what God you work with. I don't know what God you are. And I don't know what God you work with. So no, we're not kin. So that's literally the practicality of it. Like you just have to charge. And it doesn't have to be, it could be bartering still within the whole, you know, do this for me and I'll do this for you, but it's gotta be a pay to play. You can't just go around um you shouldn't. Now, and I'm always weary of women who do this too. You shouldn't just be going around prophesying over people's lives. I get lots of information that I think is prophetic. I keep my mouth shut because I have standards. Like I have internal standards, that things that I need, stuff that has to be done. And if I don't get it, then I'm not saying nothing. I'm keeping my mouth shut. And that's how I have handled this. And a lot, but you also have to know that when you're dealing with someone who does worship the same God as you, then you don't have to play by the same rules. So what is happening now is most women, they don't have any sense of this at all, especially in the spiritual community. So they just charge everybody. They don't understand that some people you don't charge. Some people you see, you know that they are a fellow traveler, you guys work with the same God, you know that God that you work with, that they also work with, is going to make sure that you're straight and you just help them out. Most people, they don't have that. They totally miss that. And they only set up a toll booth. But that means you're only able to destroy. You're never able to create. That's what you're guaranteeing. So for women, it's just about knowing what's going on. So for example, for clients who come to me, like if I have a client and they always like patronize me. If I do a new like reading, I discover a new thing, and they've already given me permission to do their chart and stuff like that. And they're a regular customer, I will just look their information up and send it to them, especially if I know they're going to pay. Like I know that if I offer this as a service, they're going to pay. Let me just go ahead and send the information to them because I don't want them paying all the time like that. They need to take their money and spend it on something else. And I know the creator is going to reimburse me. I that's how I look at it. For men though, it's different. Men should basically always have a toll booth set up. But it's not prostitution when men do it. It's just good business. It's good sense. But when women do it, it's like prostitution. So there's a lot, like there's a lady in the there's a lady in the Hebrew community, in the Hebrew Israelite community, who she was doing one-on-one calls with people, and she refused to take any money, not even a donation, not even nothing. And I was and she would it was a lot of people who would talk about that, like, yeah, if you take money, you're wicked and what you're doing is not right and you should just be doing it for free and all of that. And that didn't set right with me either. And now I understand the God that they work with was just trying to get information. So yeah, they want you to come to see them for free because they're going to take all your trauma and all your trouble and turn it back on you from another entity. So that's why you, as a participant in spiritual activities, you should pay. You should not be, and even when you pay, that doesn't guarantee that you're not going to be cursed, because they will curse you as if you go into one of these botanicas and you don't exactly practice the same religion that they're doing, especially the Santeria and all of that. They'll curse you too. They'll curse you. They'll take your money and they'll curse you, which is what happened to me as well. So, but their stuff is super weak compared to what I was already dealing with, that it didn't really work out so well. But yeah, they'll take your money and curse you along the way. So you have to be, as a person who buys this stuff, you got to know you need to pay. Like, just be prepared to pay. And if it's good information, if it's bad information, it doesn't matter. You don't want to be responsible for owing the God that they deal with. And the deals are also, they don't do operate fairly. So you could really just not know that that's what's going on. So that's why you have so many people having spiritual breakdowns, because basically they've had a demon put on them because they didn't know the rules. Nobody told them the rules. The spiritual person knows the rules. They got to bring them a certain number of souls. So they know the rules. That's why some people got these real big channels and all this stuff. Yeah, they owe somebody. They owe somebody a certain number of souls. And not everybody, I'm not saying everybody does this, but you got to look at how they operate. I can tell which ones do because if you've got a channel with like 100,000, 200,000 followers and you're doing personal readings, they're just harvesting your energy. Actually, I was, this is really funny. I was, somebody had recommended that I go look at this lady, right? And I can't remember her name, but she does some kind of manifestation stuff, right? Which is why I call my tree the tree of manifestation, because this woman is out here charging people $1 million for private work with her to teach people how to manifest. Meanwhile, I made a video, explains it, breaks it down in perfect English without having to pay $1 million. But anyway, she was having a conversation with somebody who had seen one of these people that was on The Secret. And he had this goal of getting this watch. This was in the back of his mind, kind of just hanging out, right? That he wanted this $10,000 watch. And so, like, it was on his vision board. Let's say, for example, it was on his vision board. So he's talking to this lady and he's like, yeah, my practice was increasing. And this guy calls me and he wants to do a session and he pays my fee and he talks to me. And in a few weeks, this watch shows up that I wanted. And it was exactly what I wanted. And I was like, does he realize he got played? He sold out whatever information he gave this man on how his personal business operates, what his personal entities that he works with. He literally opened himself up to be harvested for a $10,000 watch. This man he sold his juice for sure. That's how it works. You wouldn't be, and what was his fee? His fee was that watch. Like, these people who are high level magicians, they don't operate for free. If somebody like that come to me, they won't come to me because, first of all, my spirit team would reject them. They would say, "Nah, you gotta charge everyone $1 million." Like, $1 million? Yeah, don't even talk to them for less than $1 million. Okay, hey, they say you gotta pay $1 million before I can even talk to you. Like, it would be something that is that it wouldn't be a lot to them, but it would be a lot to them to pay it to me because I don't have any quote unquote credentials that would, cause them to think that I would be worth it. But this particular guy, he thought he had won the jackpot. And I was like, wow, people really don't understand how the spirit realm works. And they being harvested and having their life stolen from them every single day. Even people who have hundreds of thousands of followers. You guys, you're a small fish. You got these bigger fish, they come in. If they see you, your raw talent, you're really good and this and that, they will come in, soak your energy up, and walk around in your energy. And guess what? You've lost your sauce. Where's your momentum? You're talking about momentum. Your momentum's gone because this loser over here came over here. He don't have no momentum. His momentum is only stealing from other people's momentum, and he stole your momentum, stole your whole swag.
Yeah, this is definitely something that I've dealt with a lot. A lot of these men in particular, they tried to steal my essence. They tried to steal who I am. And the thing is, the beautiful thing about when you really do the work is that they can steal the external kind of physical
Right,
manifestations, but the real sauce, when you truly have it cultivated, is impossible. It's
exactly,
impossible to replicate, and unfortunately, most humans in this reality build their value on the physical. So
exactly.
when when other people come and steal your strategies or however the fuck we present ourselves in the physical, yeah, you're gone. The individual's individuality is gone because their whole value was predicated on the physical. Anybody could take in the physical, um,
Right.
but but yeah, very 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 interesting. It's really a warfare out here, and
Absolutely.
a lot of us are. I mean, for me, like I'm very, in many ways, I'm very naive, but I have been protected enough where like I kind of am able to maneuver through a lot of these potholes because when you have power, when you have real energetic, as I call it, gravitas, where you have the
Right.
ability to impact the collective in massive ways, which is what we gain as we continue to build ourselves up energetically, is everybody wants a piece of the pie. And not only do they want a piece of the
Right.
pie, they want to destroy you in the process because they don't want you to have the power to change reality, to transform reality. It's very savage out here. But when you're protected by the Most High, it's like somehow, some way, everything always works out in your favor. And that's what's so beautiful about when you really move from the purity of your heart, is that sure, maybe short term you might be taken advantage of, you might be played, you might be manipulated, whatever it might be, but if you're truly moving with the purity of your heart, it always works out in your favor. Like it always is to your betterment, and those who dare to try to go against you are dealt with in very brutal manners and in divine timing, which is what's best. It's not always immediately, and many times I've noticed that they are allowed to rise higher, and in their
Right.
ego, that's when the the shoe drops, and they really experience massive chaos.
And they don't know how to deal with the chaos either. So, for example,
They
with
know how to give
myself,
it. They know
yeah,
how to give it.
yeah, they know how to give it, but do they could not like live the way that they are actually forcing other people to live. So like I made a video yesterday and I went on this, my friend called me and she was like, why'd you go so hard on them? Because I'm like, these people need to shut up. They don't know what they're talking about. They're out here telling people all kinds of stuff. They have no idea what's going on. They just need to shut up. And she's like, but you didn't have to go so hard. I said, yes, because they didn't have to live the way that I had to live for the last 2.5 years and currently. Like, they don't have to live like this. So, no, they do need to be quiet because how else can humanity arise if you have these people conducting themselves in such a way that it looks like they won? Like, how can you have somebody who's out here talking about, you know, the secret, which comes from some emerald tablets, which who even wrote that? That's a whole I don't even get into all of that stuff because I used to be a huge follower of that whole movement. And I just kept thinking, well, where's the original source? Is there an original thought here? Like, are you guys just regurgitating what other people said? Like, everybody was always saying what someone else said. I said, well, where's the original stuff? As a researcher, that's like a huge red flag. So I started looking at the original stuff, and I'm like, these are people are just misinterpreting all of this stuff. They don't understand. I think they must not understand it, and just coming to that realization is amazing because it's like, wow, they really don't know what they're talking about. They really are just making this stuff up and, selling it to the highest, bidder. Meanwhile, harvesting that person's information, because you got to think about, they literally will sell something that they don't even understand how it works. And when they find the person and they have a price point that's high enough that only the person who resonates on that frequency can achieve it. And then once that person is capable of achieving it, they literally swoop in and take that person underneath their wing. So now they constantly have new information to put out, because when you come into new knowledge, you want to discuss it with somebody, right? That's just a natural thing. Like, again, back to the masculine and feminine. Eve came into new knowledge of the tree and she immediately went to share it with her husband, with her man. That's how things happen. You naturally want to do that. And they know that. So they prey on that natural interaction of the masculine and the feminine, especially a lot of masculines go after other masculines because men have a different way of communicating, but the masculines that go after feminines are way worse. I can't even tell you the number of times I've been in situations where I knew people were harvesting my energy and I had no easy way out. And it was very, very, I don't know, maybe it's just me always in running my mouth in places I shouldn't be, or if it's a lot of who have this kind of capacity that they literally, if they find you, they just try to latch on, and you're like, okay, like, I'm gonna go over here and do something else, and they're like, no, 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 no. Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. Let's do this. Let's do that. And you're like, I'm just gonna go over here and like maybe take a break for a little while of this stuff and see, why certain things aren't working the way that they're supposed to. And no, they don't ever want you to do that, and they ostracize you um for falling back to see why things aren't working out the way that you envision them, especially for someone like me who I've always had the capacity of creating the reality that I wanted. I've never not had that capacity, except for the last 2.5 years. They literally took that from me. And so it's been extremely difficult to manifest anything. That's why I went through the whole process of creating a tree and really getting into how to manifest, because the worst thing for a person like me who has always um, been led by momentum is to lose a momentum. But when I was making the tree, I realized, hey, sometimes you lose a momentum. Now I have a thought process for bringing it back. And I don't think that anyone has ever considered how to re-engage momentum when it is down. Like, yes, you do have down periods, but imagine somebody, let's talk about somebody like Lil Wayne, who was out of the music game for like what, 5 or 10 years. How do you regain momentum as a rapper in this new industry 5 or 10 years later when your audience is old, you're old, what they're talking about is all different. The whole game is different. Everything is different. How do you regain your momentum at that point? Well, if you look at my tree of manifestation, you have to go through the steps. So I had developed a whole system, which I haven't put out there yet because I'm not too sure how to present it. But based on your personal astrology chart, right? Because this is your momentum. Based on your personal astrology chart, you can go through each step in the bottom side of the chart and on the top side of the chart to figure out what where the obstacle is that needs to be overcome. So for example, on the I don't I don't have my notes for that. Hold on, let me see. I think I do. On the bottom half of the chart, is like I said, the tree. The oh, it's not in this notebook. I don't know which notebook it is, but I am statements. And so on the bottom half of the tree, you would say what you forgive yourself for. You forgive yourself for whatever the general idea of that degree point, based on either the spirit intelligences, which is in that book by Bardon, or I like the cosmicity symbols. You can forgive yourself for that. So for example, like on my Mercury, I would say I am forgiving myself for um working slave jobs, because for my Mercury, I'm supposed to be creating. Like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be using my mind to bring in resources. And so I had to forgive myself for going out and getting these slave jobs, like working at the warehouse and all of that. And so as you go through, and it's really really tough, which is why I don't think I want to release it as a let me just give this to you and have you walk away, because you might take yourself out. It was very very difficult for me to go through the whole process and realize not only did I do these things to myself, it's literally in my chart. Like it's in my chart that I would do these things. It was always a part of the greater plan that these things were happening. And so you're forgiving yourself for being who you are unapologetically. On the positive side, in the realm of creation and in the realm of destruction, it's very, very deep and personal. And so each step of the tree has a point in your chart. It's related with a certain symbol, a certain energy, and you have to forgive yourself for humanly engaging in that energy. And as you do that, your momentum will start to pick back up. Like I noticed that when I did that, that was I think last summer, I was really able to push a lot of these entities that were, even though I did cord cuttings, like, oh, do cord cuttings. I did all kinds of cord cuttings. I did all kinds of things to remove these things. Some of this stuff was ancestral. So, and when you got like difficult ancestral problems, then you have to just keep working, because like I said the other time, like that guy Franklin, that was an ancestral thing that didn't even have nothing to do with me. So there's no, like, what can you do when you got something in your subconscious that was given to you, forced upon you, you were sold out because they thought it would help you be more successful. Whatever the case may be, you still got to figure out how to get that thing out. So and then like it didn't even happen right away. I still was like, I just recently found out who this guy was and why this thing had happened and putting it all together. So it's not like immediate effects, but you can rebuild momentum as you forgive yourself for the things that you've done and also are just they're just natural to you. And then once you get through the tree, the bottom part, then you can I had different words for each thing. Boy, I did a lot of work. I should probably write this down. um I have different words for each planet, like keywords that you're doing. So, like for the top half of the tree, it was I am illuminating the path for young people to live abundant lives without slave jobs. So that's what my overall goal is. That's the direction I'm headed. And then what I always do is I pulled one of these every day. I think it's 12 of them. I pulled one of them every day, and I would it's really 13, but I think I have 12. I would before I went to sleep, I would say, okay, show me what this looks like. Show me what this looks like so that I can work it out in your dream. I think the biggest thing that people should like know is that whether you remember your dreams or not, you can work out your problems in your dream state. That's what it's for. So you don't want to let these entities hijack your dream state, because that's your 8 hours a day that you can spend dealing with your problems. And if you let these entities hijack it, they will have you. That's one of the ways they have you creating for them. They will have you have a certain dream. So it's like creating prophecy. So they'll give you a dream, and the dream will be something like, for example, it was a horrible dream. They'll give you this dream, it'll be horrible, it'll be something that you don't want, but because you don't um direct your sleep, um with mantras. I think mantras are better than frequencies right now until we get the information out there about which frequencies to use, because the frequencies are all wrong. So the any of the Hindu pantheon mantras are all good because they're vocal, so they're going to be a natural frequency. Um, but they will give you a dream. You'll wake up and you'll say, "Oh my gosh." Whatever you have a you'll have some kind of opinion about the dream, and then that will cause it to manifest. And that's pretty much what they've been doing. So like I said, I had this dream about all of my cousins selling me out, right? And then I wake up and I didn't even care what was going on in the dream. I was just like, I was observing, and then when they sold me into slavery, I was like, okay, so y'all want me to do this the right way or the wrong way? And then somebody actually like shot me, and I was like, I just got back up and I was like, okay, y'all gonna let me finish this? Like, y'all want me to do this laundry, or like what's going? I literally had no emotion of being sold into slavery, of seeing these people saving in slavery, of doing the slave labor of washing clothes or whatever they had me. I had no emotion, and so when I woke up and I saw my cousin was had passed away, I didn't have no feeling about it. I was just like, okay, well, I guess they were trying to get me to be, evil and mean about that to somebody who was a blood relative to me. And I don't think that worked out so well. So I just moved on, but that's what they do. They can get you, especially if they can't get you emotional in the physical realm. If they can't get you emotional in the physical realm, they will do whatever it takes to get you emotional in the spiritual realm. And remember, they know the rules and you don't. No matter, I don't know the rules. I know what works for me, but I will never say that I know the rules. I know that you're supposed to work out your stuff in your dream state from the day. But as far as like how what is possible, what is not possible, I don't know. This is just what I figured out, because I'm not no astral traveler expert or anything like that. Which some people are. I don't happen to be that. I just know that if you ask before you go to sleep about a specific problem, you're going to get an answer. And if you don't get an answer, you keep asking until you get an answer, because they don't like, especially if you've been harvested for a long time for your spiritual energy, they don't like when people wake up and they start trying to take that power back. So the first thing they'll do is give you a nightmare. Um, yeah, the first thing they'll do is give you a nightmare, and then they'll give you a bunch of weird dreams that don't make any sense, that you can't interpret, so that you'll try to go to one of their trusted people on their side to get them to interpret your dream. And then when that doesn't work, they just start straight up giving you stuff that's like false. So every time you say, oh, I had a dream about this, then it's the total opposite. Oh, I thought about this, and it doesn't happen at all. So they try to invert it. And then when they're not able to invert it, then they have let you have a little itty bitty bit, but not enough to actually deal with your problems. I would say it's just I would say I didn't have full control yet, because they still messing with me in ways that they're not supposed to. And I've been trying to harness the energy of my dream state for over 3 years now. Uh I still have weird dreams where they're trying to control the narrative. So I know that they're still work to be done. I just think it's the kind of work that just takes a lot of dedication to really get to. You can't I mean, it's not like you have to. I do it every night, like try to focus on something, but it's not like you have to. It's just understand. And then there's certain times that are more beneficial than others. So, like right now, today's the last day of the galactic portal. So, the last 10 days of dreams for sure, uh, I would be paying attention to. So now I know moving forward on galactic portal days, those are the days where I have the best chance to make certain changes. In a few days, we're going to start what's called a mystic um, pillar in the Zolkin cycle. It's 20 days. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen, but I'm sure it's going to be another opportunity to harvest dream energy for solving certain problems, which is why it's a lot of the stuff they teach on manifestation is correct, but it's also about the timing. So if you don't know what the timing is, you will just get weary with trying to figure out the timing. But with me adding in the Zolkin and really getting clear on how that whole system works, I can see now when certain things are going to happen, why they're going to happen, when they're going to happen, how the stuff plays out, especially when you pair it with the astrology and the moon cycles. But until you get to any of that stuff, just you have to start where you are. That's like the number one thing.
Yes, very fascinating. Um, so I think maybe we'll end it here.
Yeah, sounds good.
And definitely recommend everyone check out the thread posted above, and a lot to digest when it comes to understanding the masculine and the feminine. So I think we'll either do a follow-up one on Friday, or we'll move on to the next topic.
Okay.
But yeah, I
Either
think this
or.